Hey everybody, Lawrence here with Dirty Basic Terrain, coming at you with another one. This one I've seen the basic process done on other channels before, and I wanted to give it a try because I've never done this. But basically, it's going from pipe cleaners like these to a gnarly looking tree like this. I want to walk you through how I do it, and basically the process. I was doing winter themed terrain lately anyway. I figured I'd make frozen trees. But again, it's not all that difficult or hard. It's similar methods to something I've done before. But before we get to it, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to my patrons. You guys' help every month is greatly appreciated, and I can never thank you enough. So, all right, let's get to it. Grabbing a big handful of these pipe cleaners and just starting to twist, maybe about a fistful width up for the trunk of the tree, and then just keep twisting and twisting until I get to where I want the branches to start splitting off, and then I'll twist that group of them together, and then I'll split that apart, and then twist again for another split in the branches. And that's basically what you're doing. You're just twisting up, split, twist, till you get to where you want it to be. And then eventually you're going to have to go down to the roots and do the exact same thing. Split it apart in a couple spaces, and then twist. This isn't rocket surgery. It's just basically taking a handful of pipe cleaners and then twist. The only thing you got to watch out for is you make sure you get enough individual pipe cleaners when you start twisting for the splits that you can split again if you want to. Now I got to get rid of all these fuzzies, so I'm just taking a barbecue lighter here and just start melting it away. But it starts dying on me, so I switch to this other lighter and just melt all the fuzzies away down till it gets down to the wires that are inside, holding all these fuzzies on. But yeah, it's just a matter of melting. Make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area because it smells. And of course, here I will actually want to build up the base a little because the roots themselves actually have a big gap underneath of it. So I'm just cutting some circles here out of some 1/2-inch thick XPS and basically going to slope it and kind of like, okay, that's good. And just start trimming away at an angle until it gets to where I'm happy with it and I can actually put the tree on top without having to build up so much stuff underneath of it. Now I just want to quickly glue all these foam parts onto the base itself. I think this is wood glue I'm using here. Any type of PVA will do. And just boom, done. And I'm testing this out. I was like, it's still a little high, so I had these little scrap pieces that I'm just going to hot glue on real quick, just to help me get rid of that extra little bit of space, so I don't use so much material on my next space. And here I am, I'm just shaving it down so I can get that to where that little extra space underneath the trunk itself where the roots split off is not going to be as pronounced as what I wanted. And here, it's just basically test fitting the roots onto the base there with the foam, a little bit of hot glue, and smash it down in place. Not that difficult a concept. Of course, this tends to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. Now, the roots themselves, I'm going to glue them down individually as well, and this will hold the tree onto the foam really well. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for this step, so I'm going to try and explain it. I basically was taking small ripped up pieces of toilet paper, which is an idea I stole from Recon at Full Moon Crafting, but I would brush on some watered down PVA onto the tree itself, lay down the small chunks of toilet paper, and then brush on watered down PVA again on top of the paper to hold it onto the trees. And this basically textures and also will somewhat mute the wire texture from the pipe cleaners. It worked. And of course now I want to actually cover up all the foam that's on the bases, so I'm going to use some Sculptamold. Basically, Sculptamold, water to the consistency of like runny cottage cheese, and then I'm going to smear it onto the base in between the roots. Pretty simple, pretty quick, and it'll give the appearance of dirt once I'm done. You have a little while to work with the Sculptamold, but don't mix too big of a batch or you just will run out of time. And of course, I'm just black bombing this with an airbrush. You can honestly, with all the protection that this thing has, you can use a rattle can, or if you really want to, you can use you know what? You can use anything you want, really. I have the airbrush, so I'm going to use it. It's quick, it's easy. Yeah. Of course, now I want to start painting the trees themselves, and I'm going with my dark gray and dark brown mix to give it a grayish brown coat to all the wood parts, because the ground. I went with this because I wanted to have the trees a bit of a light dead look to it. But I also wanted to be able to make it distinctly different from the ground, for the trees, and the dirt that I'm eventually going to be painting. So I needed to go with something that I thought looked good. So gray-brown, or brown-gray, whichever you want to call it. But here I'm just giving 100% coverage, done. And for the mid-tone, I'm going with my mid-tone brown and my mid-tone gray mixture.
And I'm going to do an overbrush, which is basically 75-85% coverage, and just leaving all the deepest, darkest nooks and crannies alone, and going over the tree itself. And if you notice, I'm not painting the dirt yet. So. And of course, now I need to go with the light color. So I'm light brown and light gray mixed together. And I'm going to do a quick light dry brush over the whole tree and all the different wooded area. Pretty simple, dark, medium, light. Not that difficult a concept. I also want this tree to have like a dirty, nasty look to it. So I'm getting my dark brown, homemade dark brown wash and just slopping it all over, and getting 100% coverage with this and let it just grind down into all the nooks and crannies. And of course I'm going with my light gray brown color and going to do a real light dry brush starting from the top and going down. Just to make it for more natural, like the sunlight's hitting it from above and all the shadows and whatnot are still... It looks good, so that's why I'm doing it. But again, I'm only letting the brush hit the tree from up, down. Not going up and down, just up, down, up, down, up, down. It looks good. And of course, now that the trees are all painted, I gotta start painting the dirt. And here I'm going with my standard dirt pattern with a dark brown, or in my case, burnt umber. And now you can get the idea of why I mixed the gray into the browns for the trees itself, just to distinguish between the tree and the dirt itself. So right now, just 100% coverage with the dark brown on all the dirt areas. And now I'm grabbing my mid-tone brown, or in this case nutmeg brown, and just giving it an overbrush quick. Again, the same as with the tree with the mid-tone, leaving all the darkest crevices alone. Get about 75-85% coverage. Now that all the mid-tones are done, I'm using my light mocha, and just giving a real quick light dry brush to make all the details pop. All the little cracks and crevices just really pop up. And I said, that's my go-to for dirt. Of course, I want to add some flocking to this, but I don't want it to look lively. I want it to have almost of a dead appearance because it's winter. It's not very colorful, so I'm just going with my standard. Typically, I'll go with the earth flocking, burnt grass flocking, which is a green color, and then the yellow. Well, I'm leaving out the burnt grass or the green just to give it a more like, hey, this is wintertime. This grass does not look bright, pretty, and green, so... But here, I'm just brushing on some PVA in patches where I want the flocking to go till I get to the point where I'm happy with it. And, you got, if you've watched any of my videos before, you've seen me add flocking. It's just a brush on PVA, sprinkle some flocking, But hey, it's a system I like. It works for me. and it's not broken, so I'm not going to fix it. If I figure out something better, then yeah, maybe I'll do that. But as long as I like quick, simple, easy, you know. So it's just a matter of, like I said, brushing on the different spots that I want flocking to be. Sprinkle it on. I don't like dumping it on like some people do. I like more control of where the flockings go, because, you know, I want some spots to actually be thin. So, you know, I can go as thick or as thin with this method as I want. So, like I said, this is my preference. But again, I'm just sprinkling on the earth, or basically a brownish green flocking, onto all the different areas I want it to go. And then I'm going to sprinkle on the yellow flocking, just, you know, to give it a little bit of highlights and just for a color difference, so it's not all one single color. Of course, I'm using some grass tufts here, frosted tufts from my favorite tuft manufacturer, Huge Miniatures. They also make a bunch of other stuff. I just wanted to add some little grass tufts just to break it up a little, even though in the end you don't really see them, but I know they're there. And of course, now we gotta add snow. First, I'm using regular strength PVA here. I'm not watering it down like I do a lot of times with stuff. Mainly because I'm using it on the branches here at this moment, and I don't want it to run all over the place. And it's just more of a making sure it goes where I want it deal. But, you know, anywhere I want snow to go, and I'm just going to show you the branches, but I'll do the same thing on the bases as well. But it's just sprinkle a bunch of this Woodland Scenic snow flocking on over all the different spots that I did. Now, next I have this Elmer's snow powder that I got from a slime kit, which is a much finer powder. So if you can find something similar, it's basically you need a fine white powder, and I'm just putting that on top of the Woodland Scenic flocking just because it's finer and I like it. Now, I did notice with my previous build that this snow doesn't like to stay on completely by itself. So just to make sure it stays on and doesn't, you know, flake off or whatever, I'm just hitting it with some matte sealer, and that should be enough to hold it on. And I actually did go back to the winter cave and then while I was doing this and hit that up. Of course, I wanted to give it a little more smoothness and whiteness in some spots, but so I'm using a white pigment powder. It's just that soft pastel chalk scraped into powder. Hey, it's cheap and I can make a lot of it. And just hitting certain spots with this dry brush. I'm not dry brushing, I'm just using the dry brush to place it. And then afterwards, hit it with some isopropyl to seal it in place. Okay. Icicles. Yeah, gotta make them. Gotta use the Green Stuff UV resin. It's just quite simple. On a piece of parchment paper, put some little spots, tease it out with a toothpick, and use the UV light to cure it. I mean, it's a pretty easy process. Now, I do prefer the Green Stuff World resin for this because it's thick and not so watery. Gives me a little extra time to tease around with it with the toothpick. Some brands are a little bit more on the watery side, and there you go, icicle. A little more difficult. Now, to actually attach these to the trees, I'm just going to use UV resin. just kind of get an idea where I want it, snip the rounded end a little flatter, test again, dip it into the uncured resin, touch it on the tree where I wanted to go, and use the light to cure it in place. I mean, I'm using the UV resin to attach a piece of UV resin, and to fill in any gaps or spaces that I don't like around where it touched, and boom, icicles on trees. I am actually really happy with how these turned out. I have done twisted wire trees before, but they used the whole pipe cleaner method. So I kept thinking to myself, that's just kind of dumb. But I broke down. I was like, you know what, why not? Let's give it a try. And I'll tell you what, it's not dumb at all. This is going to become my go-to method for making trees in this type of shape. It's quick, it's easy, and the materials are pretty cheap, so I am not going to complain. But again, I am really happy with how this turned out overall. And here it goes, with the cave.
Hey, if you made it this far, it means you watched the end, and as always, I can't thank you enough. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe somewhere. And if you want to get a hold of me directly, come to the Discord, link in the description. You know what? I would love to see your guys' winter themed terrain. Post pics, please. I would love to see it. But again, I mean, going from these gnarly looking pipe cleaners to this cool ass winter trees, I'm actually really happy with it. Over doing like the standard twisted wire. I think this is how I'm going to do trees from more my dead trees anyway from now on. But I really did enjoy it. But as always, guys, remember when you're making your trees or whatever, remember the only person you got to worry about is you, because it's your terrain.